All right. We are live, and I've got Brian Desind waiting online. And without further ado, let's go ahead and bring him on. Brian,
Hey, how you doing?
thank you so much for being here, my man.
Oh, dude, it's my pleasure.
Yeah, well, I have been looking forward to this for a long time, and I really hope a lot of people get a lot out of this little interview live stream we're doing. I've been a member of Privada relatively late. Like, I didn't get into it until June of 2019. Obviously, you guys have been around since 2017. So before I kind of dive into any of the questions, what are you smoking tonight?
I am smoking an Epic La Rubia Lancero, which he's never made before. We're considering having it for the club, so he wanted to make it a Privada exclusive.
Cool.
And I love this cigar. He gave me like a bundle of them, and I've been smoking them ever since, like on and off. So, yeah, that's what I'm smoking tonight.
Sweet. I'm lighting up the Good Life by Brian Desind.
Oh,
So
now is that the original Good Life, or is that the new?
This is the second edition. I still have one left of the original, and I'm saving it so I can do a comparison with the re-up a little bit later.
That's what I want to know. I'm very, very interested because even I have not done that side-by-side comparison. What happened was when I got the second edition of it, I was like, this is a different cigar. This is a different wrapper leaf. Some of the complaints about the original were actually the pluses of that cigar, which was it was like mushy in some ways.
Yeah.
Very chocolatey and velvety, but almost too soft. And I think that's what kind of made it so unique. This one reminds me of the original Liga stuff. It's a very hard, sandpapery, wrapper. Both great cigars in their own right, but they're two different cigars. And Eric Newman can't figure out how this happened. And so he's asking me to send him a version of both so he can smoke them himself.
Okay.
And shout out to Eric Newman. Regardless, his mistakes are better than most people's, intentional stuff. So
yeah, and I'm really looking forward to next month too, because I got a couple that they were good enough to send me to review for them, and I'm really looking forward to hitting a couple. One of it being Diamond Crown number 7. It's a beautiful looking Bellicoso that's supposed to have a second level of fermentation going with that wrapper leaf.
Nice.
And then kind of the revamped version of their Perla Del Mar, which is one of their core lines. So looking forward to that. So we talk about Privada Cigar Club. We're talking about, in my opinion, speaking frankly, probably the best damn cigar club that's available right now. Arguably the best cigar club that has ever been. And I'm not just, blowing smoke here. I really do think this. And to you, what do you think it is about Privada that sets it apart from everybody else? And we all know, you guys, you get the most incredibly aged and rare cigars, but on top of all that, there's another element going on.
Yeah, so I think that I've always passed it on to the members because I rely on all of your feedback. I watch your videos, Joe.
Yeah.
And I watch other members that don't even have half the viewership of you. And I listen. And so I've always kind of passed it on to, it's not me, it's you guys. I'm listening to you guys. I'm able to taste things really well and know that if someone says, well, I didn't like this because it was a little bitter or something like that, I would know what they're talking about and be able to translate that to the manufacturers and get better product and better product and better product. I think I have to give myself a little bit of credit at this point in the fact that, look, I have good taste. I've always been a little bit ahead of the curve in everything that I've been into. I got into craft beer a little bit before everyone else got into craft beer. I got into whiskey a little bit before, 6 months before. Even in music, I was this way. I would wear certain things 6 months before everyone else started doing it, and then everyone was doing it, and then it was like, oh, I got to change my my style up because I look like I'm just doing what the crowd is doing. And so, you know, I do think that I have a gift for that, of being a little bit ahead of the curve. And I think timing was just perfect in cigars. I think the cigar industry was just so the same. And I think that we were able to tap into. So where I give myself credit is being ahead of the curve and knowing that limited run, rare cigars were going to be the thing. And so starting in that direction, which gave me a niche, right? And once I had that niche, listening to all the feedback from the people that were in that niche and using that to guide me going forward. So it's a mix of I have good taste, and it's a mix of I listen to all you guys, and it's a mix of a lot of different things, which is what creates a culture.
Yeah, you seem to have a gift for being a trendsetter. And I don't know how many times I've seen you just in the last 2 years that I've been a member of the club, seeing you bring out cigars that even I wasn't big fans of. Case in point, Lanceros. I was not a Lancero guy before I got into Privada. And damn, right away, the first cigar that I got from you guys, well, one of the first cigars was that Paul Stulek Red Screaming Sun Lancero. And it blew me the hell away. And it was just an unreal smoking experience. And it was the first time that I actually got a cigar that paired well with a Pilsner or a lager really, really, really well.
Yeah.
And that had never happened before. Like, lagers and Pilsners aren't classic cigar pairings.
Right.
But that one was like designed for that sort of beverage pairing, which was outstanding.
It's that bready,
very yeasty.
Yeah, that broadleaf. Yeah. Listen, and then a lot of it's luck, man. You know, what's not luck is how hard I work at it.
Sure.
But I think there was a lot of timing there. It was a lot of, you know, the right place at the right time. For once in my life, I've tried a million different things, and my timing was terrible in every single thing I tried before this. And you know, we got lucky, and then we also got lucky with the members. I mean, you know, I have guys like you in the club that, you know, you've done the marketing for us. You know, I like to think of myself as a good marketer.
Sure.
But, you know, you guys have been loud and proud about it. And I think you've been that way because you've seen how passionately I have served you guys.
Yes. Yes.
And that's really what it comes down to, man. I've dedicated my, you know, business life to getting you guys the best possible cigars that I can get you, and packaging them in the most rarest form that we can get.
Yeah. And I mean, that kind of speaks to a topic that I've been kind of talking with another YouTuber about recently, and that is the value of social media and consumer-based marketing that the cigar industry has up until very, very recently, and arguably still suffers from this problem right now. They're not utilizing it as well as they should. And so the cigar industry is a tight enough niche, a subculture of society where that really, really matters. Because, I mean, just if you're in the cigar world, if you're into cigars, you're going to hear about Martin Amaya. You're going to know, you're going to know Brian Glenn. You're going to know, you're going to know all these guys. You're going to know these names, and you're going to know what they have to say about things. And word spreads fast in the cigar world. If something's really good, people hear about it pretty damn fast.
Well, first of all, I want to say that Martin will only smoke things that he got for free. So
I'm not that
Martin,
proud.
if you don't think I got your number, Martin, you know, come on, and email me. I'll send you a box for free if you want. But yeah, no, Martin's a good guy. He's obviously passionate about this craft, right? And I think that that's what it comes down to. And my whole goal the entire time was to give credit where it was due, which is I looked at cigars differently than I think people looked at cigars before Privada as a commodity.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. It's a brand like Coca-Cola. You like Coke, you like Pepsi. That's how it was before. And I started finding out, well, who are the people that are blending Coke and Pepsi?
Right.
And let's find out about them, and let's give them some credit. you know? And so I think that's what we brought, you know, a little differently than the people that came before us. And that's not saying we're better than those people, but I brought a little bit of a more millennial new style approach to that. And that's still my thing. And that's why I don't necessarily have my own line of cigars, because I've never wanted to be the cigar manufacturer. I've wanted to be the tastemaker, the food critic, the person that told you, hey, this, you got to smoke this. You know what I mean? That kind of stuff.
Well, you know, and I'm kind of with you on that, because the whole concept of brand loyalty when it comes to cigars has been a very foreign concept to me. Just like there are certain brands that I definitely like, but I can't tell you the last time that I smoked the same cigar twice in a row, probably ever. I mean, I don't think it's ever really happened. Yeah, I've smoked certain cigars more than once for sure. That's obvious, but I'm always looking to see what's new, because I always want to see what can tobacco do. Because it feels like the limits, there aren't really no limits to what tobacco can do flavor-wise and texture-wise. It's pretty incredible.
Wow. I love that. What tobacco can do.
Well, because we feel like we're just now tapping into the sort of things that we can figure out. You know, the pioneers who are, you know, hybridizing different seed strains and figuring out different characteristics that can be developed by crossbreeding, and I think that's amazing. I mean, just as recently as less than 100 years ago, the only tobacco you got came from Cuba for the most part. That was it, at least when it came to cigars. And now it's coming from everywhere. I mean,
Davidoff moved to Dominican Republic in 91, I believe.
Yeah.
Clark, was it 91?
91 was the last year they were sold. They moved in 89.
They moved in 89. So 91 was the last year they sold Cuban tobacco.
Yeah. That's nuts.
Yeah, it is nuts.
I mean, do you think about Go ahead.
No, just to think that, you know, there's a whole large class of people out there that won't even smoke Dominican tobacco. They're just all Nicaraguan.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. And doing because I'm such a cigar nerd, or cigar head, as you would say, studying tobacco history back as not that long ago. So 1905, you know, it's over a century ago, but the grand scheme of tobacco, it's really not that long ago.
Sure.
70% of American males consume cigars, and now it's down to less than 5%.
Wow.
So, I mean, there is just a huge amount of potential clientele that haven't discovered this yet, and
Did you know that from whenever the Cuban embargo was, like 56 or 54 or something like that, from then until almost 1980, the Candela wrapper was the most popular wrapper.
I recently found that out thanks to you.
Isn't that cool?
You were the one who brought that my attention, which is insane to me.
I know it's insane, because we don't want Candela wrappers. Meanwhile, there's some good Candela wrappers on the market.
Yeah. I mean, we had the one that you guys had a little bit of Candela on, that Sinistro Lancero, which was pretty good. A kind of an old reliable, which I haven't smoked in a while, but Fuentes 858 in Candela is pretty amazing. And again, there's kind of a shortage on those right now, but I haven't been able to get my hands on them for some time now. But
I'm a huge fan of the Black Irish from
yeah.
That's a great cigar.
Yeah, or the Filthy Hooligan by Alec Bradley. It's another
yeah.
So going into kind of a little bit of backstory with Privada, what was it that was there a pivotal moment where you just said, I've got to start getting into cigars? Before Privada, what was it that got you into cigars in the first place?
Yeah, so I was a sneaker collector.
Right.
So I came from the music industry, and I was heavily involved in, I guess you would call it, urban music, and then eventually just kind of like a hybrid of urban and rock and that kind of stuff. And I did a very little stint at the end of touring with a group called Rehab. They had a song called Bartender. A lot of people probably know this song. It's a big bar song. And so I was a sneaker collector, and I thought it was getting immature. I was probably about 33 years old, and I was still collecting sneakers, and I don't know. I just felt like it was getting immature, and it was also hard to move around a lot with, 60 pairs of sneakers. So I started slowly selling them off or just wearing them, which I never would before. I
Yeah.
would just like take them home and look at them.
Right.
Whatever.
Kind of like what I do with cigars now.
Right. Exactly. So I was doing that, and I ended up in Tampa, Florida, which is Cigar City.
Sure.
And I worked from home at this point. I had already started my own business, and I was working, because I would be lonely sitting at home. So I would go to cigar lounges. I'm not a big coffee guy, or I wasn't at the time. And so I would go to cigar lounges, and I ended up at a place called the Tampa Humidor. There was a guy named Brian who used to be a sales rep for Oliva there. And he introduced me to Crown Heads Las Calaveras in 2014.
Yeah.
And he was like, yeah, like if you like this, you better get as many as you can because they'll be gone soon. And it switched that bug from sneaker over to cigar very quickly. And then it was the Tatuaje black label when it was just in one size in a can in a jar. And they were just, outstanding. And then I started to be able to really taste the difference between cigars.
Yeah.
And I really thought that these things were going to be worth a lot of money one day. And so I started collecting them. And then eventually I met my wife. We moved and we moved and we moved. And we ended up in a place in Pennsylvania. And I started collecting so many cigars. I had like a room full of cigars. then we got pregnant. We decided to move back to Los Angeles, where she's from. And we ended up moving from a 6,000 square foot home that we were building to flip into a 750 square foot apartment. And so I realized I had to sell my cigar collection, or at least some of it. And so I went out on the market, which was eBay and whatever else at the time. And I tried to sell these cigars, and I realized very quickly that most people in the cigar culture didn't value cigars the way that I did.
Yeah.
So I decided that if I was going to have to sell these things at a discount, I was going to tell the people that bought them what made them so special.
And that's such a brilliant idea. I mean,
so it was just like a necessity is the mother of all invention. Like I was just like, no, fuck that. If I'm gonna give these things away at a discount, I at least want these people to know
what the hell they're getting.
How lucky they are to get these cigars that I sat on and aged for years and that kind of thing. And so that's where the writing came from. And I think that the writing is what made the big difference.
Wow. So, just a fun little question. Can you name off the top of your head some of the really special ones that you had to let go? Because I'm really interested to see what sort of stuff you had your hands on back in the day before you started Privada.
Yeah, I think the Las Calaveras 2014, that was something that I was heavily stocked on. It was an amazing cigar. It still is. They created their brand La Imperioso, I think. The blue label.
It's a fantastic cigar.
So they made that blend based on the original 2014 Las Calaveras. The Pete's Reserve Tatuaje Black Corona Gordo with the pigtail. That was just an outstanding smoke when it used to come in ceramic and then plastic jars. What else at that time, man? I'm having trouble remembering exactly
I
what
put you
else.
on the spot there. I apologize.
No, not at all. There were other limited edition things that I was really in love with, and I think you can go back to the beginning of Privada and look at what was in those boxes. There's a couple of pictures here and there, and find some of these things. They weren't all just from boutique brands. Some of them were. Some of the majors were catching on to boutique and, what was going on and doing some cool things. The original La Espada from Monte Cristo.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they're still great to this day, but the originals were out of control.
It's always nice when you get a blend from one of those giant companies because, and I don't want to knock anybody, but to be frank as possible, the giant companies tend to give you kind of run-of-the-mill down the middle sort of cigars that aren't going to wow you. They're going to be fine, but that's about the extent that they'll be. So when they come out with something like the Espada, which I think even their more recent editions are pretty damn good, it's always very reassuring to me that they haven't completely lost their soul.
I got to give credit to Monte Cristo.
Yeah.
I think a lot of their lineup is actually pretty good.
Yeah, I mean the Oscuro version of the Espada, I went ahead and bought a box of, and I'm already out because I'm smoking them pretty regularly, but I'm also giving them other people, and I think that's where you and I kind of converge. Is anytime we find something that we really like, we don't keep it to ourselves. We're like telling the world, and we want people to try it, enjoy it as much as we did.
So I remember getting out of music. I always had record deals, and I was with famous people, and I was always slated to be this, next big thing in music. And leaving music would have been impossible in my circle of friends because they were all invested into me being a star as I was.
Sure.
And so I had to leave. Because people, places, and things. Like if you're a drug addict and you're around drug addicts, you're going to keep going back to it.
Right.
So I left, and I moved down to Miami Beach, which at the time I thought was paradise, and I was alone. And it's like going on vacation alone. What fucking good is it if you can't share that experience with someone? Yeah. And so every month with Privada, I get to share these 3 amazing experiences with 10,000 of my closest friends. And that's how I feel about this club. You guys, the membership fee that you pay to be in Privada is we're just pooling our money together so that I can go out and make these things happen. And I get to share it with you guys. And there's nothing better than shared experience, Yeah.
It's really fun recruiting people for the club too. And I've only recruited a handful. But it's fun because when I get to know people after smoking with them a few times, my brother-in-law is one, a couple of my closer friends are other 2. When they start picking out nuances and be like, oh man, this thing really is above what I was smoking before. And I was like, man, I don't know what you want to spend in a month, but for a little over $30, you can get some really, really incredible stuff. And there's a backstory attached to it that you're privy to. And then there's this incredible community. And I think to me, that's kind of like the key element right there.
That I didn't see coming. Yeah. I did not see that coming. I didn't imagine having people like you in this club.
Yeah,
I didn't. I thought it would be a faceless brand. I did not put my face or name on anything. I remember doing the first Cigar Obsession live.
Sure, I remember.
With Brian Glenn. This is 2 years ago. And I was driving home drunk, which I shouldn't have been doing. And actually, no, I had a friend drive me home, my best friend.
Oh, there you
Chris.
go. Yeah, you're a responsible human being.
That's correct. And my wife called me and she was like, I just want you to know, because I was always very, the music thing was so ego driven that I wanted to make sure that it was so hard to come down from that. It was years of depression and not, okay, my dream failed, or, I'm not going to be this person that I thought was going to change the world through my art, or, whatever ego thing was going on with me then. It was very clear to me that I'm never going to put myself in a position like that again. And so doing the live thing was kind of nervous to begin with. And then on the way home, my wife called me and she was like, I just want you to know that our subscribers just doubled in the last 2 hours. I think we had 1,000 members by then. She was like, I just want you to know we're at like 2,000 members and counting in the last 2 hours. And I was like, oh shit, I guess these people want someone to put their face on this. So yeah.
Well, that's kind of ironically, it's a very humbling position to be in when, kind of like Pacino in Godfather 3, right? As I'm trying to get out, they're bringing me back in.
Correct. But I know that this is not about me.
Right.
I'm good at writing about this stuff and being the commentary on it, but this is about the cigars and the people that make them. And that is my focus.
Yeah. It's when I started this channel, it was all based on wanting to bring as many people into the cigar world as possible. And it was another way of reaching. I'd be like, I really enjoyed this. Maybe you should check it out too. And when you started getting people who were actually starting to follow the channel, it was a lot of people who had similar palates to me and were really interested in what I had to say. But honestly, the first time I did a live stream, it was like maybe 6 people on the live stream,
Right.
and but it was the best time, and it was just, and I wasn't even talking to people like I'm talking to you. It was all through text chat during the little live chat that was on the sidebar there, and I had the best time, and that's when it sunk. It was like, I'm never going to stop doing this. This is just what I haven't had this sort of personal fulfillment with other people who I've never met before in my life. And just that gratifying experience, and it's all based on this common love, which is for cigars.
So I'm not a sports guy. I have a very hard time holding conversation with people, with other American males. I have a very hard time believe it or not, in a party situation with, if my wife introduces me to someone that's not into cigars, I actually have a hard time, again, because I think most American males bond over sports.
Sure.
And I'm not a sports guy. And so it used to be music. And that now after music, I didn't want to talk about music anymore because it made me jealous or angst or, anxiety, or should I have quit, or, any of that stuff. And so when I find people that are into cigars, I just light up. And I'm able to talk to them for hours and hours. I also like to talk about entrepreneurialism, which is something that I'm going to get into over the next year. I wrote a book on the experience that we've had with Privada, about the community aspect of it, and how I believe that this community aspect is what's going to drive all business going forward. Right. Now that we've established what the internet really is and what it's good for, I believe that most businesses are going to become not necessarily subscription based, but community based, as in, hey, let's just say I'm a vegan. Okay. You're a farmer in, my general vicinity. You start your own vegan based produce company that delivers produce to, and so, and I can tell you, hey, I love the kale and I love this, and we can create this community where what I want, and I'm okay with just saying, okay, my groceries cost me before $250. I'm okay with giving you $260 a month because I don't have to shop anymore. Exactly what I want. Yeah. You're going to deliver that to my front door. So I wrote this book based on, this communal thing that we've created. And I'm going to be focusing on spreading the word through entrepreneurialism to other people that your businesses need to change now. We're in a different era, and it's communal based and it's niche based. And if you serve your niche, you can be more successful than any, predated business could ever be.
Yeah, it's incredibly profound concepts that kind of transcend the cigar industry. I mean, this is something that people can apply to pretty much any industry if they wanted to.
Right.
I think it's funny that the same night that you do that live with Brian Glenn, that's when your wife tells you, hey, oh my God, you got like so many subscriptions overnight.
Yeah.
So, and there's another example of just, connecting with other people, immediately effective at making things grow. And I've been reaching out to a lot of fellow YouTubers, and there was one in particular that we're going to be trying to do another kind of a situation like you and I are doing right now. And he brought up an interesting topic for a conversation that I wanted to expand on. He did like a 15-minute video on it, but I wanted to have a further conversation about it, talking about how the cigar industry, because there's just so many old school minded people running things, that they're just not utilizing YouTubers to the extent that they should. Now, there are a number of companies out there that do not follow that trend. They are actually utilizing YouTubers and their ability very, very well. And J.C. Newman's one of them. And another one is the Crown Heads and Crux. They all get the power of YouTubers and what influence that really does have on the cigar market. And credit to them, they're having to buck a lot of trends that a lot of these old school guys have been very hard nosed about. And I think that's going to be kind of the new norm. Sooner or later, it's going to happen, because those that don't utilize it are eventually going to fall behind.
100%. I think that there's some companies that I created, Privada Cigar Club, with them in mind, that broke my heart and just did not subscribe to what I was trying to create here. And I kind of understood that in the beginning, because they were used to doing things a certain way. But I thought that once they saw the success of Privada, that they would kind of slowly climb on board. And it just hasn't happened with a couple of those brands. And it still breaks my heart to this day. Honestly, it like in the morning when I'm showering, I get very frustrated with some of these brands. And again, I hope that they, turn that thinking
Hope they come around. Yeah. I mean, it's never too late. They could always, assuming you're the sort of guy that wants to keep that door open.
Yes. And I think a lot of the people that I'm kind of like referencing, I think they look at me differently than I want them to look at me.
Sure.
I'm here to promote them. I'm not here to become them.
Yeah.
And I think a lot the people that I'm talking about think that I'm here to become them. And I'm not. I'm not the brand. I'm the retailer. And I'm the retailer that romanticizes their craft and their art.
Yeah. I mean, you said it in one of your recent video content, which you've been putting out a shit ton of lately, which is awesome. And more content, the better, buddy. I mean, that's the way I look at it. But I mean, you basically said, was it Eduardo Fernandez? You were telling him, listen, you guys are like my Jordans.
Yeah.
To me, I think, and then I think that's so true, because I mean, like, I try to talk to other people in my circle of friends about, oh man, did you see that? George Padron and Arturo Fuente and Carlito Fuente, they're going to do a tribute cigar for each of their respective fathers. This is so cool. And they're like, what? Who the hell are these guys? You're like, you guys don't know?
Right. Exactly. No, I 100%. I totally romanticize this industry, and I look at these guys as complete artists and artisanal. And I feel like my job as Privada is to tell their story. Before Privada, it was very hard for any of these brands to get their content or their story out to people. And when it's one thing to smoke a cigar that you buy at a shop and say, oh, I like this, this is good, versus smoking that same cigar, enjoying it just as much, but also getting the story on how that cigar was made, how that person got into the industry, and what makes their tobacco unique. That's the romantic part of Privada, and I think that's been a big key to our success.
Yeah,
excuse me.
For sure. And it's funny too, because I noticed something when I first got into cigars when I was like 25, 26. And since then, all my younger brothers got in when they're like 18, 19. And I'm pissed off that they got into it earlier in their lives than I did. But, I would smoke a cigar, and it was the cigars that got me really, really more interested was when I actually had a really good conversation with someone while smoking that cigar. And I just noticed is like that experience of smoking a cigar was elevated to a huge, incredibly wonderful level because of this very, very intimate connection you had with another person who was also enjoying that cigar. And cigars are about community. And I think you've tapped into that extremely well. But let's go into a little bit about when it comes to
gold.
Privada as a movement. People notice pretty quick after they see just like how many people are just enjoying the hell out of every release that you guys put out for every month, that there's something very special here, because it's not just that there's the community, but the cigars you're getting. These are unreal experiences. You're getting cigars that were made for Saudi royalty. You're getting cigars that were made for Kuwaiti diplomats. You're getting cigars that are as old as 12 damn years old. I mean, even if you've got money, you're not going to have the connections necessarily to get your hands on some of these things.
Correct.
That's astounding.
I've been looking. We just did a New Air review, unboxing for. It's not out yet. We got the bigger one. They sent us the bigger one, and so I went through what I call my retirement coolers, and I started putting cigars in there, and I started to realize that a lot of the cigars that have been in the club, particularly the aged cigars, were cigars that were one man's trash is another man's treasure.
Sure. Yeah.
And I think that the idea for the people that were selling cigars before me were brands. And because I'm not a brand, so every other retailer before me was just saying, okay, brand, you tell me, what your new thing is, and I'll put it out.
Right. Yeah.
And that was it. And so I've dug a little deeper than that, and said, what else do you have? What's been sitting around? Why was it sitting around?
Yeah.
Can we tell that story? And how's the cigar now? Because, hey, I tell you what, I'm having some sort of allergy situation. So I tell you what, there are, and I tell this to brands, especially right now, because there's not a shortage of tobacco, but there's COVID, has us. I'm smoking way more cigars. Yeah. So there's a little bit of an underproduction situation going on. And so brands are sending me cigars. And even it happens with, someone sends me a test blend. I love it.
Right.
I say, hey, give me X amount for the club. Let's make them. Let's do it. Let's go. And I get those cigars with 30 to 60 days of rest on them. And I smoke it, and I call the company back, and I say, this is not the cigar that you gave me.
Sure.
And they say, please just, sit with it for a month. When are you putting it in a box? Well, I'm not putting it in a box for 5 or 6 months. Do me a favor. Let's wait 45 days, smoke it again. And you know what? It changes.
Yeah.
And it's the sample that they sent me now. So a lot of things go out wet. And so there's a lot of rich guys want to get in this game to have their own cigar. That is a story that I've heard so many times. Oh, this guy owns, he's a big producer of blah, blah, blah. He likes smoking cigars, wants his own cigar. He made 60,000 of these. He bought 20,000, and we got 40,000 sitting around for 6 years already. We don't know what the hell to do with these things. Okay. Send me that cigar. The cigar that guy smoked when he got those original 20,000 is not the same cigar that I'm smoking 5 years later.
Right.
And now it's got age, and it's been sitting in a cedar-lined room with perfect humidity for 5 years. And I get it, and it's a total different. It's sucked in that Spanish cedar flavor, and it's a total different cigar. So we run into a lot of that stuff. And so I forget what your original question was, but
I was talking about just the fact that we're getting our hands on cigars that are aged as ridiculously long as they are.
Yeah.
No one else is getting this experience.
And the other thing is that
no one else is getting this.
So the other thing that I want to add to that is I noticed that a lot of the guys that I've romanticized, that now they're starting to come around to working with us, they're hooked on this FDA thing.
Yes.
And they're hooked on the FDA thing because they have a brand that they want to sell consistently. And what they don't understand is that we don't want anything too consistently.
Right.
The people that Privada represents are 25 to 45. Cigars International, their crowd doesn't start until 53.
Yeah.
Okay. And yes, they're looking for a consistent brand loyalty thing where, they buy a bundle of it on a sale, or, we're not like that.
Yeah, and so that's the unfortunate thing about when you get to a certain size, consistency is the most important thing. And that's such a bummer because it really does kill your soul when you're getting the same damn thing every time you light up.
Bro, I love, fucking Bon Jovi, Living on a Prayer, but I also like, new songs that come out,
Right.
and I'm into them for 2 months, and then they go to become something else, and then I'm into this new thing,
And isn't it funny? Much like an old song, it's going to sound different to you when you get older. It's going to have different context when you're older and you've had a different life experience, and all of a sudden that song has a completely different meaning to you than it did when you were 17 or 18.
Of course. The difference with tobacco is no matter how consistent you try to be, that is not the same cigar,
right?
Production-wise in 7 years.
Yeah, and that was a question, and I'm not a big fan of Cigar Aficionado's top 25. I always watch it. I always look at it. I always watch the videos, and I always see what's up there because it's fun. But as far as the concept in general and the way that Cigar Aficionados, there's method of doing it, it's not. I'm not particularly fond of it. But a lot of people had asked me, how is it that Cigar Aficionado can rate the Oliva Serie V Milanio the number one cigar, and then a few years later, it's like ranked number 7 or something. It's like, well, to their defense, it isn't the same cigar 7 years later.
Well, I have to agree with you there. And I want to show respect to the people that came before us. I don't want to tear anyone down.
Right.
The place where I'll really go at Aficionado is, and I hope you don't mind I curse.
No, go right ahead.
Why the fuck are you putting out issue after issue with people on the cover that don't even fucking smoke cigars?
And I was going to bring that up because the last issue that came in pissed me off so bad. Because, like, why do you have The Rock on the cover?
He doesn't.
If he smokes cigars, great. If he smokes cigars, great. Put him on the cover, which is why I didn't have a problem when they had Nick Jonas on the cover one time.
He smoked cigars
because he was a cigar guy. And I was kind of pissed off on his behalf because there were all of his fans on his Instagram. They're like, I can't believe you're being such a bad example to the youth by smoking cigars. He's a grown-ass man.
Right.
Okay? He can do what he wants, for crying out loud. And I thought, even though I'm not a fan of Nick Jonas's music, he's not a bad actor, but I'm not a fan of his music, the fact that he has the potential of bringing a younger generation into the cigar world is fantastic.
Now, why is that fantastic? It's fantastic because if we don't do that, if we don't bring pop culture back into cigars, it will become like Canada.
Right.
It will be taxed to the nth degree.
Right.
It will be to the point where, I don't know if you know or not, but in Canada, they've been flirting with a law that I think just finally passed, which is you can't even have art on your band. It has to be black and white. Okay. And a cigar up there costs $30 to smoke a cigar. Are you kidding me? We got to bring every athlete we can, every musician we can, every actor we can into this. But it has to be authentic.
Right. Yeah, and I don't get I get that The Rock is a celebrity. He's probably arguably the most popular male on the planet right now.
But he doesn't.
But what is he going to do for the cigar industry? He hasn't, by his own admission, he hasn't smoked a cigar in his life, and it's just like, so why are we?
I wrote Cigar Aficionado, and I basically said, like, I can do wonders for your, because I still believe in them.
Yeah.
And I said,
I do too, because they've done great things for the cigar world.
100%. And it's Cigar Aficionado. It's like a coffee table book that comes out monthly. You know, it's not necessarily the content sucks now, but like I was like, yo, I can turn you guys around. I know I can. I said, but I want the cover. And I realized that how egotistical that is in saying that, because they've never even put, like, I don't even think Carlito Fuente has ever been on the cover. They've only done covers of actors and famous people.
Right.
And you know what?
Right.
Our generation, this, you know, I think you and I are probably at the top of the millennial. Maybe we're not actually millennial by numbers, but we kind of are by internet and everything else. We are influenced by influencers, famous people and stuff like that, but we're also into story and authenticity. And the fact that you're putting people on the cover of your cigar magazine that don't smoke cigars That's not real. And then you have, if we're just speaking candidly, then you have Half Wheel, which is the complete opposite. These are these cigar nerds from the 2014, 2012 era who made you almost feel stupid for liking certain things. And that's where cigar heads come into play, which is what Privada is. You're a cigar head. You're not a cigar nerd. You're a nice guy. If you see me doing something that you disagree with, you're not gonna knock me for it, but you're probably gonna try to influence me to try something that you think is cool, you know. And I think the cigar nerds, which are still a lot of the tobacconists that are at the front desk of a local cigar shop that judge you based on what you picked out, you know, those are the cigar nerds. And listen, without the cigar nerds, there would be no Privada, okay? But it's a new time now, and Privada members in our community are nice people. We're not here to judge anyone. We're here to educate ourselves as much as possible, and we're here to engage in this passion of cigars.
Mm-hmm. Sure, yeah. And it's funny, talking about Half Wheel, I love the reviews, and I love how thorough they are, because I mean, they're really thorough.
They're almost too thorough. It's like scientific.
Right, yeah, and it kind of I don't mind it so much personally, but I can definitely see where it would kind of kill the soul of it when you're trying to like really deconstructing it to kind of an OCD level.
So if you smoke a cigar that is phenomenal, but it went out on you and you're deducting 15 points for that, you're not. This is not the same thing now. And that's where I give aficionado a lot of credit. Hey, don't look so much at their top 25 list. Look at their weekly list.
Yeah. Right. Yes.
They're not far off, dude. I like if they give something a 92, I smoke it, and I'm usually like, it's a great cigar. I don't know if I'd give it a 92 or a 94 or a 90. But it's a great cigar. Excuse me. I'm sorry.
Right.
No, you know,
fine.
so.
Well, I was going to say about Half Wheel. Have you ever noticed how long their smoke times are with their Half Wheel reviews?
Charlie is absolutely
it's absurd. Like they'll have a. How do you get 2.5 hours out of a Robusto? I don't understand that.
It's crazy. It's crazy. And if you're going that deep, then you're no longer relatable to the consumer. Like they've given cigars, they put Death Bucket 2 in their top 25 list this year. And thank you, Half Wheel, for doing that, because I think it gives a little bit of credit to what I've been trying to do. But
sure,
I was surprised. And then they gave Supreme Leaf, which all of the members voted on. We're talking about, you know, almost 10,000 people here that voted on one cigar as being incredible. They smoked that and they gave it an 85.
It was.
You know, it's so...
Which I didn't get. I mean...
It is what it is.
And I know cigars are subjective, but...
But construction should not hold the weight that they give it. And if we're gonna if we're talking about cigar fish, Half Wheel's rating spreadsheet of how they rate a cigar, I think there's a little bit. So we put out our own rating system. Do you remember the card? Did you ever get the card?
Oh, I use it every time I rate a cigar.
I think I was off by about 2 points, and if I could redo that, which I may do, I would give enjoyability, instead of a 50, I would give it a 52.5 or a 55, and back down some of the other things, because what I found with our rating system on that card was I was always about 2 points lower than what I really thought. So if a cigar rated 89 on that, I thought it was a 91. And so that's something that I think our industry needs to come up with a standard, and it doesn't need to be the Privada standard, but there needs to be 5 or 10 people from different walks of life in the cigar industry that all agree to a specific rating system, and through the years hand down a baton, say, hey, I'm not going to be on the rating board anymore, but this person fills my position. They're like me. They come from my manufacturer background or my tobacconist background, and they're versed in how to rate these cigars. There needs to be a non-paid for rating board or system in our industry. And this is what I said. We were on something earlier with Boveda, and we were talking about top 25 lists. And I said, I'm not saying in any way, shape, or form that Charlie at Half Wheel or Savona at Cigar Aficionado are smoking a cigar and giving it a higher rating because it's a paid advertiser. I'm saying that they're smoking those cigars because it's a paid advertiser.
Right.
So there needs
like they don't even get the
right. And so that's one thing. If you look at Privada Cigar Club, if you look at our shop, you don't need to be a part of the club to be in the shop.
Right.
Clark and I are looking at the shop like we realized who you guys wanted us to be in regards to a shop, which is the boutique end all be all. We've got brands in there that we're like, I've never even fucking heard of these brands.
Yeah.
But they've been around for years, some of them.
Yeah.
And they make some of our favorite cigars white label.
Yeah.
They make the Monte Cristo Espada, but, they're not able to, say that, or no one says that, or, whatever it is. I'm not saying that that's a thing. I'm just saying that this happens. Like, for instance, the LCA this month has been made by a brand called Curavari. Okay?
Sure. Yeah.
Curavari is a $5 cigar.
Yeah.
When they make their own cigars. They make some of our favorite cigars for some of our favorite brands, and no one ever gives them credit.
Right.
We made the mistake of putting one of their bands on the cigar this month. And you know what we heard from some of the LCA shops? They were like, we're not going to take it this month because Curavari sells for $7 and you're asking,
why are you giving us a budget stick?
And I'm like, it's not the same Buenaventura that they make, but we wanted to put their band on it because we want to give them credit because no one else does.
Right.
And so, there's a little push and pull with that. I promise you that it's not the same Buenaventura. When you smoke it, you will see that it's probably the best cigar that's been in the LCA yet, which is saying a lot.
Sure.
So
because you've had some heavy hitters so far. And
how are we going to keep that going? I don't fucking know.
Well, if there's anyone who's going to be able to do it, I'd put my money that you'd be able to pull it off before anybody else.
Thank you.
It's funny because you mentioned brands like Curavari. I didn't pay a lot of attention, and not due to bad experiences, but I didn't pay a lot of attention to Padilla. But then you put a couple of Padilla sticks out there that were out of this world good. And now I have to start paying more attention to Padilla.
Padilla gives me zero credit for introducing him to 10,000 new people that had no idea who he was before. Literally, I'm like, do you not realize that this was great promotion for your brand?
Yeah.
And his answer is, I've been doing this for 18, 20 years. You're a fucking young punk. You have no idea what the fuck you're talking about. You want my shit, you pay for it. And I'm like, can I get a little break here? Like, come on. I think I did you some favors.
Right.
No, nothing. So we go through moments of time where we don't speak for months and then we're best friends again. He's like drunk uncle to me. He's drunk uncle. He comes in, he offends you, he says negative things, but you still love him, Did I lose you?
Yeah.
Hello?
And again, it wasn't because I had experiences with any Padilla blends. It was just, you can still hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
So it's not like I tried any blends. So it's not like I tried any blends of his that I just didn't care for anything. I just didn't give him the time of day for whatever reason. I don't know. I was just distracted with other things, and other brands had just had my attention for a really long time.
Padilla's got a really great.
I mean, you made me a believer of Padilla after, the two that you put in. It was just, they were excellent sticks.
So Padilla's got a really great thing going on. Sorry. Padilla's got a great thing going on from a bad thing going on. So Padilla, the great thing about Padilla is when you smoke a Padilla 1932 or a Miami 8 and 11, okay, I can't speak on the stuff that Cigars International sells because they make that. We don't, or he doesn't.
Right.
He's licensed.
Right.
A lot of people don't realize that the bigger box manufacturers or retailers, they've taken so much control of the situation that they actually produce the cigars.
Yeah.
So you might see, this brand sold at this company, and they actually make that cigar, and they give them a quarter, 50 cents, $1 per stick that sells. Have you tried any of these guys?
No, not yet. Not yet.
Good, great sticks.
You sent me a Bellicoso, I think over a year ago, and it's been sitting in my Privada drawer in my cabinet all this time. And it just has, it's a Padilla special. It just has this, like, you typed just a simple font on this white band, and I can't remember what it is.
So that's the top secret, I believe.
Yes. Yeah.
So anyway, so with Padilla, the 1932, the Miami, those are ones that we get because we end up commissioning them. So I consider these guys artists, and the cool thing about Padilla is Padilla has the same recipe. So it's the same cocktail. Okay. So, but he never works at the same manufacturer for very long. Okay. And that's just his personality.
Right.
Okay. So each manufacturer makes that cocktail slightly different because they're growing their own tobacco.
Uh-huh.
Do you understand what I'm saying?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. So it's like, hey, there's 2 leaves of Ligero Viso, and there's the wrapper has to be Ecuadorian Habano, and the binder has to be this. That cigar is different every single place he makes it, but it's always good because he's got a good recipe.
Right, which speaks to, that speaks very directly to where it is that you as a consumer are buying particular blends, because it's like if you're going to buy all your cigars from Cigar Aficionado, from Cigars International, rather. And I'll tell you this just from experience, your experience with smoking is going to be subpar a lot of the time because of that very reason. And that's what I noticed about Privada is like, I would get 3 Privada sticks a month and I'd be smoking, 15, 20 other cigars the rest of the month. And to a certain extent, even with really good cigars by really good blenders, I would feel a little underwhelmed, and then I'd smoke a Privada stick, and it's just like, you know what? They've got something different than anyone else does, and that really struck home when I was smoking the Monte Cristo Red, or the Montenegro Red. Yeah, the Montenegro Red, and it was just like, you know what? These flavors are cleaner. These things draw at a level that's just perfect. They burn great. The aroma is out of this world. Why is it that I'm getting this much of a better experience with Privada sticks than I'm getting from some of my favorite brands that I'm just ordering online?
It's the difference between craft beer and what was before craft beer. Before craft beer was Miller Lite, and it's funny because I was a bartender at my father's bar when I was like 14, and I remember fucking being behind the bar, and we had a draft. We had like six things on draft: Miller Lite, Coors Light, the regular run, Budweiser. And there was this crew from down the street, Little Lehigh, Old Lehigh Brewing, and everyone walked in the bar would make fun of it. They'd be like, "Why the fuck? I piss in that river. Why would I drink a beer that was made with water from the Little Lehigh? We fished." We pissed in there. We grew up in that river, and I kind of was like rooting for them because they were the underdog. Yeah. They were 10 years too early. Had they come out 10 years later, they'd be one of the hottest craft breweries in the country.
Yeah.
And so timing is everything in life.
Sure.
And so we're at the most exciting time in cigars. I honestly believe that this is going to go down as the most exciting time in cigars. The only time that would rival it is the 90s boom, which was such a mass-produced, no one gave a shit what they were smoking. They wanted to look cool at the bar with a cigar in their mouth before the smoking laws were passed.
Right.
And so we are at the artisanal time for cigars, and I'm so proud and so happy to be a part of it. Now, let me ask you this. In regards to health, you're a guy like me. You're a somewhat young, healthy guy. You look, you're decent, well put together, and
I'd like to say I'm in pretty good shape. Yeah.
Yeah, and you probably exercise a little bit.
Yep.
Do you feel that it's a negative health impact on you?
It's funny because I don't start feeling. I've experienced nicotine poisoning. I'll give you a little story. That was the first time that my wife and kids actually went on a trip without me. She was visiting her sister in
North. Too hard.
Yeah, and a lot of it was by myself. Like I was just This was back in the day when I was only smoking maybe 2, maybe 3 cigars a week, and that quickly shot up to 3 cigars a day when they were gone. And at about day 5, I was getting the worst sort of muscle soreness I had ever gotten, and some just hangover level headaches. And it was just because I had jumped from 3 a week to 3 a day, and you can't sustain that. You got to work your way up to it. Beyond that, no. And again, now I'm at a level where I'm easily smoking every day for the most part, with the occasional break for a day or two to reset the palate and cleanse everything. But no, I don't have that. I don't have nicotine poisoning anymore. But anybody.
I've done as much human research, non-medical research as I can.
Sure.
Most of the manufacturers that I deal with smoke anywhere from 5 to 9 cigars a day.
Sure. A day. Yeah.
Yeah, a day.
Yeah, that's a lot.
They are around people that are in their 60s and 70s. They're master blenders that smoke this many cigars a day.
Right.
The only people that have died in this industry died of obesity, heart issues from obesity. It was more diet related.
Right.
I'm a paranoid hypochondriac. I'm always concerned about anything, any little pain or anything. I'm like running to the doctor. I get my throat scoped probably once every 2-3 years. Nothing. Yeah. They're always like, "Yeah, you're perfect, man. Everything's great."
It's funny because my dad. This is my biggest regret in my life to this point. Is that my dad and I will never share a cigar together. And my dad's still living, but he was a chain cigarette smoker for most of his life. He was of that generation. His dad died when he was young, and he got working into restaurants to help support his own family when he was age 12.
Wow.
You work in restaurants back in the 1960s and 70s, you're going to smoke because everybody smoked back then, especially in the restaurant industry. And so he started smoking when he was 12. And he smoked up until his early 40s when heart attack forced him to stop. And him and every last one of his siblings, he's got 6 siblings, they all have had heart attacks because they were all chain smokers. So there was a real stigma in my family after all this had happened to just stay away from smoking. It's not good. And thankfully, cigarette smoking had never appealed to me. The single biggest reason is the one time I tried it, I hated inhaling. I just hated the process. I hated the sensation of inhaling. I just didn't like it. And then somebody offered me a cigar when I was 18, I think someone offered me a cigar when I was 16. I say cigar, it was a Swisher. So I smoked that with them, and I really enjoyed it because of the experience with them, not necessarily because the cigar tasted good. And then, again, when I was in my early 20s, someone offered me a cigar again, and it really started getting the ball rolling. And then I started looking into the difference between cigars and cigarettes, not only in the process of smoking, but just the freaking ingredients in cigarettes versus cigars. There's one ingredient in cigars, tobacco. There is about 373 ingredients in a single cigarette, and all of them are bad for you. So
we tried to do a spirited smoke episode on health, and my doctor, who smokes cigars, was always like very cavalier, like, they're not bad for you. It is the absolute least of any smoking whatsoever. He's talking about hookah. He's like,
Sure.
hookah is deadly. You don't
Really?
want. Yeah, he's saying that hookah is the absolute worst. It's the hottest thing out right now, and it is the worst. Some of the flavored vapes are terrible. Like, this is all crazy stuff. Cigars, because you're not inhaling, is the least of any of it.
Right.
We got him on camera, and he was very nervous on camera.
Sure.
And it was weird. And so we started going over the numbers, and basically your numbers go up particularly as an ex-cigarette smoker that now smokes cigars, your numbers go up for certain types of cancers.
Sure.
Okay. Those cancers are so, and I'm not a medical person.
Right.
I'm not giving advice. Those cancers are so rare.
Right.
You know, esophageal cancer is very rare. It's almost, some people think it's genetic. Apparently, there's a large Asian community that gets esophageal cancer without smoking.
Yeah.
There's a million different things. So the point is I question whether or not it's healthy or not. I think if you're someone that can smoke, I think there was a study what was that study from an FDA
staff report.
FDA staff report. They really only monitored like 15 or 20 hardcore cigar smokers. And they said 1 cigar per day was almost nil on the increase of any of these things.
I think they even said as far as like 1 to 2 cigars a day.
Yes, 1 to 2. That's what it was. So, you know, I don't know. I do feel a little irresponsible, you know, looking like I'm living the great life and having it, you know, and saying that there's no health. I'm not saying that there's no health benefits, but health risks.
Yeah.
But, you know, here we are, 2 guys that are in decent shape in our 40s, and, you know, and I think we take our health seriously.
Sure.
And I don't think that we see anything wrong with it. But I just wanted to get your take on it.
Yeah, well, the take I have primarily is the mental peace that comes from smoking cigars, I think more than makes up for any potential health risks, at least for me. And I'm just speaking personally.
It's very interesting.
You know, there's a British cigar guy. His name is Lawrence Davies. He looks like the personification of sleep apnea. But
I almost okay. I got to tell you a funny story.
Sure.
Do you mind me interrupting?
No, go right ahead.
Okay. All right. So my wife and I, we're not married yet. We're living in Orlando. We have the most beautiful apartment you've ever seen. It is a loft style apartment, 20-foot ceiling to floor, glass.
That's a tall ceiling.
Balcony overlooking a lake that has been manicured by Disney, with a fountain, with lighting show, music show. It is the most beautiful thing in downtown Orlando you've ever seen, right? It's unbelievable. And so it's my birthday, and my wife's wasn't my wife at the time. She says, "What do you want for your birthday?" I said, buy me a trip to London. I want to go smoke Cubans with all the, you know, you're talking about Sautery, I think.
Yes.
Yeah. I said, I want to go there and I want to smoke cigars. And she got very jealous. She was like, you're going to go to London without me?
Without me,
I was like, what's the big deal? She was like, forget it. I'm not buying you that. Okay. So fast forward 3 years later, we're married.
Yeah.
We just gave birth. Okay.
Yeah.
When I said she just gave birth.
I'm assuming you helped her in some way.
Yeah, sure. Moral support. And so it's my 40th birthday. She gets me a cake that looks like a cigar. Awesome. Privada logo on it. And she buys me a ticket to London to go to all these places.
Wow.
And I freak out.
Sure.
And I'm like, no, I freak out in a negative way.
Oh, no.
I'm like, I can't go to. Are you kidding me?
I've got a baby now. Yeah.
I'm gonna leave you guys and go to London. It was a 12-hour flight. I was just the biggest asshole about this trip ever. I feel terrible to this day about how much shit I gave her about this trip, and I never went. We refunded the trip. I got like a medical note saying I couldn't travel or something. But when there was like a week where I was like, okay, I'm gonna do this. and I got him to agree to an interview. And so that's my story.
Okay.
And he was super cool. He's like, "Yeah, I'll do the interview." And I was like, "I'm not coming. I can't do this."
Oh,
I
man.
honestly, I was so homesick just thinking about leaving my wife and my
Isn't
child.
that funny?
It's crazy.
Yeah. So what I was going to say about Lawrence Davies was he was talking about, he made a very good point. He made it tongue in cheek because I think he's very self-aware of just the mammoth of a human being he is. But he says, I asked my doctor which is more deadly, stress or cigars, and he said stress probably. So that's my justification for smoking cigars.
That's perfect.
And I think even though he was joking when he said that, there's a lot of truth to it. And Steve Harvey once said there's a video of him smoking in his trailer.
Oh yeah,
on YouTube.
I've seen it.
He said, before you tell me what cigars do to me, let me tell you what they do for me. And I think that's kind of my approach to it.
Yeah.
Okay. I've got 5 kids, and there's a lot of fucking stress in my life because of that.
5 children?
I have 5.
Where do you find the time to do this?
Every person I tell them that, they go, first of all, how are you still married? And how do you have time to smoke cigars? First of all, I have an amazing wife. That's the single biggest reason.
That's the key ingredient to life.
It is. I married up. That's for sure. When it comes to the character department, I married up.
Nice.
But the cigar ritual. I have this great little tent that I have set up for my wintertime smoking because it gets cold as balls.
I see that. You're in Kansas City, Missouri.
I'm in St. Louis, Missouri.
St. Louis, Missouri.
And we had probably one of the worst winters 2 weeks ago. We had like 10 days in a row. It was like a foot of snow dumped on us. And we had like 10 days in a row where it was single digits and wind chill below 0 the whole time. I was out there almost every day in the tent with this nice little heater. And the wind was off me, the snow was off me. And it's been great. It's the best $150 ever spent in my life to get this tent. So, but the ritual of coming out to the tent, or when it's summertime, I just go out to my deck, having a smoke, having a pour, or some coffee, and just unwinding for an hour or two, I think is just the best thing. Even if I didn't have 5 kids and all the stress that comes with it, this would be a beneficial thing for me to do anyway.
100%.
Yeah.
Well, I've gone way over the time that I said I was. We got Clark. It's Clark's birthday.
Oh, happy birthday, Clark!
We got happy birthday, Clark. We got steaks ready to go. Yeah, and I also have a head cold. I promised myself I wouldn't smoke tonight, but I'm 2 cigars in, and I'm not going to stop.
All right.
So, listen, Joe, I want to tell you something, man.
Sure.
You are the example that I want to leave behind, that I want to set for this industry. You're a good person. I don't see you ever making someone feel stupid about a question. I don't see you ever being unapproachable to a young cigar smoker. And I was so proud from day one when you started your YouTube channel that you were a member of this club. And I really appreciate what you do. I know it's not for money. I know it's for
That's definitely not the case.
I know it's for passion, and I'm so proud to have you in this club. And if you weren't in this club, I would think that I was doing something wrong.
Well, I am happy to be a member. I don't see this ever changing unless Privada somehow, God forbid, dies for some reason, which if I have anything to do with it, I can't let that happen.
Thank you.
But the passion for bringing people together is kind of a pivotal thing, and I think you have that in spades. And for me to be a small part of that in any way is very, very gratifying, and I'm honored to be a part of it. So I want to thank you, first of all, for putting aside the time to come onto this live stream. I very much appreciate it, and I will be giving away a 5-pack of Privada cigars from my stash that I've been kind of hoarding.
I'll replace every one of them.
Okay, thank you. I'm not sure it's going to be terribly easy to do a couple of these.
Don't worry, I'll figure it out.
So I'll be making that announcement tomorrow. Anybody who has commented in this live stream will be entered into the drawing, and I will announce the winner tomorrow sometime in the community tab on my channel. So just be looking for that.
Well, Joe, I think it looks like my video has frozen, but I like this picture of myself.
It's not a bad one.
We should make this a cigar band. And I really, really appreciate you, man. I tell you, I watch. There's a couple of YouTubers that are club members, you and Vic, High Desert Men, that I get that passion for this thing. And even though I don't agree with his most of his reviews, I love Vic. If you're watching, I love you, man. I'm just so lucky to have you guys have grasped onto this thing. And I promise you that my ego or what's good for me will never be a deciding force in what cigars go in the pack, what cigars go in the shop. And I can also tell you this. You talked to me before the interview about what we should mention and what we should mention in as far as haters of the club and stuff.
Yeah.
You know, I battle this every day. There are brands that I want to tell you guys, hey, these guys just won't deal with us, and you know, they just don't want to talk to us, and it's just, it pisses me off, and you know, here I am trying to be good to everyone, and these guys just don't see it, they don't get it, they think I'm here for me, and
right.
you know what, that doesn't matter, because when I see guys like you and I see the community that we've created. Do you want to buy cigars that we can't get in the shop? Of course. I'm not here for total world dominance.
Right. Yeah.
I'm here to leave a mark and create a community that even if it doesn't profit me, it makes cigars and cigar smoking culture a better place. And that's all I can ask. And thank you. I think you're just the perfect representation of what a Privada member is. So thank you.
Well, it's very flattering. Very humbled by those very kind words. And maybe, because I'd love to do this again, we could get you on sometime in the future in a couple months or something.
Dude, let me tell you something. I got a very good old friend in the music industry from St. Louis. I will be visiting St. Louis at some point. His name is, he's an R&B singer that I met in my music career. He's a very flamboyant, outspoken young man. Oh, not young. I guess he's my age. I don't know what young is anymore. And he's got a barbershop in St. Louis. I forget the name of it, though. I'll have to remember it. But no, I will be in St. Louis, and I'd like to be there in person.
Oh, that'd be amazing. And if we could make that work, we'll need to make a day of it, because I'd like to show you around some of my favorite haunts, especially when it comes to cigar places, because there are some great people that have really taken good care of me in a number of different occasions, and they just do great work for the cigar industry.
Who's your local LCA shop there?
Now we've got fucking 3 of them here, and I was just
3 LCA shops,
which is why I was able to score 6 Cigabuns. As I just trooped to each one of them and bought my limit each one. So we have the Hills, my favorite. That they're like 5 minutes from my house. Yeah.
The Hills Cigar.
The Hills Cigar Co. And then there's Lit Cigar Lounge, which is a little bit further west. And then another one, which is on my way back from my delivery route most days during the week, is it's a new cigar shop that took over from a place that was just let go and broke my heart. But they took over a new shop, and it's called Triple Leaf Cigar. And I met the people, and they're great. They're great people.
Who was the Clark? Who was the shop that I really wanted, and the guy broke my heart? Do you remember that?
Was it possibly Grade Crew?
It was like if Ralph Lauren owned the cigar shop. It was just perfect. I'm not sure it was in St. Louis.
It was in New Orleans and Florida. Smoke on the Water.
No.
Which one?
No, this was an older gentleman. He had a shop. It may even have been in Kansas City. Do you remember we spoke to him and I was like, hey, listen, this is what we're going to do for you guys. Like, and it was just like an impossible to say no. And he was like, yeah, I'm just not interested. It was like a gentleman's shop.
Well, I was really happy when I emailed Clark and I told him that I wanted him to reach out to the Hill. They were so receptive to him.
Great.
I was really happy that they did that, because it was such a good move. And,
and I see members spending way more money than they spend on our website at these shops. And I'm like, I guess it's still good.
Well, it means that the LCA is clearly working.
Yeah.
Because, that was the idea,
was
to try to keep these brick and mortars going, and that's certainly helped.
100%, and I'm wealthier than I could have ever imagined I would be. So I could care less about that. I joke about it, but it is what it is. And again, thank you very much for having me. I'm gonna get my butt out of here and get that grill going, and say hello to your 5 children and your wonderful wife. She must be an amazing person.
She's pretty amazing. She's pretty amazing, if I say so myself. So
they make the world go around.
Brian, have a great weekend. Happy birthday, Clark. And we'll do this again. We'll do it again, and hopefully I can get you up here and we can show you around town a little bit.
Anytime you need me, I'm here, and I will be there in person. I have this dream of like visiting some of the YouTubers like in person, and you are top of that list. So
that's the best news I've heard all month. That's fantastic.
Awesome. Thanks, Joe.
Well, have a great night, man.
You too. Bye.
I want to thank Brian Desind, #WeArePrivada. I want to thank Yamil for posting my hashtag in the comments, #SAGO, which is an acronym for Smoke a Good One, if you hadn't guessed. Thank you, everybody, for joining us for this live stream. I had a really great time, and I really, really appreciate all of the insight that Brian was able to give us. God willing, we'll be able to do it again. I will want to do some more live streams with other people in the cigar industry. I have a few things in the works with other YouTubers who have their own channel that I think have a really good message that I want to have a live stream with them too. So these are all going to be things that are in the works in the coming months. I'm really looking forward to doing it. I really appreciate you all. Thanks so much for tuning in. Have a great weekend. Smoke a good one.